Good morning, everyone. There will be two videos regarding HTML, tables, forms, and then latest HTML5 media support. Okay, so we will also be discussing about all these things. Along with that, we will also be seeing respective demos. Okay, so let's proceed with the things. So we have discussed about some of the basic concepts. So let us continue with this HTML further. Okay. So until now we have seen so there is paragraphs, and within the paragraphs we kept some text. Okay, but in HTML, okay, you need several sort of escape characters. Say for example in HTML, if you put a lot of space, say for example you between two words, if you want to put a space, okay, usually there will be one space that is rendered properly, but then if you want to put some 4 or 5 spaces in the middle, you put this space bar, it will not be taken like that one. HTML will render it as a single space between these two words. But if you desperately want to put white space between two words, how do you do it? So HTML has this sort of special escape characters. So you have to put this ampersand NBSP, okay, semicolon. Then it will be taken as a single white space. So if you want to put multiple white spaces in the middle, you can put several of these NBSPs, okay. But that actually puts a little bit of a problem. So since ampersand escape characters start with this sort of ampersand, you cannot put an end within your text anymore. So if you want to put an end within that one, then you have to put this ampersand, okay, and ampersand AMP semicolon. So then it will be displayed as end. Similarly, almost all our tags have this sort of less than, greater than symbols, and then some of the parameters have these attributes, have these question marks, etc. So if you want to put these things in the text, again you need to have escape characters. So and LT for less semicolon for this less than, and greater than semicolon for this greater than symbol, and for question mark, and then so on. So there are lot many symbols possible. So for example, the idea of these videos is not to discuss about every possible tag. These are not exhaustive videos. Okay, so this is something which you all have to understand. So we will give you enough references. Okay. Say for example, if you want to know more about these sort of escape characters and other symbols, okay, you can basically check it at this link. So not just this sort of plain ASCII characters, whatever we have been displaying there. So if you need to have characters, if you want to put emojis and then cat set more than this sort of ASCII, you have to put this sort of declare UTF as the cat set. Okay. So that the HTML document understands this document contains the UTF characters as well. Okay. So this meta information is actually stored in the head. Okay. So meta cat set UTF-8 basically declares that one. Okay. This information is actually stored in head. So if you want to know more about this sort of additional cat set and then putting additional emojis, you can check out these links. Okay. So since we have started discussing about these meta tags, let's also discuss it further. Okay, say for example, these meta tags are actually put in head. In the first video, we have actually seen first example itself, we have seen head actually puts the information something like the title and the information which is relevant for this sort of search engines actually. Say for example, eventually your web pages will be taken notice by these sort of search engines. Say for example, tomorrow somebody searches for this sort of information, whatever you have kept on your web page, it can actually be viewed from searched at Google and then viewed from there. Okay. For that one, you can put additional meta information. Say for example, if you put this meta tag name description, content description of your site. This is the description which you actually see in when you search for anything in Google. You will see 10 results. And under these results, you will see some sort of description. Is it a small description? 2 lines, 1 or 2 lines. Okay. That is this description which you put in your in the head information. Okay. And there are also other meta information, something like keywords you can also put. Okay. So the content is basically keywords describing your site. You can put all those keywords. Okay. And whenever people search for these keywords, okay, your page will have higher chance of getting in. Tables are very interesting things. Okay, so you can also view tables in HTML documents. To put these tables these things basically will be put within this sort of table tag, which will have a start tag and an end tag. Okay, defines this sort of HTML tag table. So So this tr basically is about table row. So we will have several rows. Okay, so each row is starts with tr and ends with tr tag, and we have this table header. So this is like a student id, quiz 1 result, quiz 2, quiz 3. So these are all the table headers. Table headers by default will be rendered bold. So this is the output of the table: student id, quiz 1, quiz 2, quiz 3. And then like so we have all these sort of result rows, 3 rows. So each row again like tr, and then like table data you have. Okay, so 1 2 3 4 5 is the okay. So and then like another table data is quiz 1 result 9, 10 and 8.33. So this is how like the row is rendered. Similarly, like different rows are actually rendered like this one. Okay, so this is about the table. So let's look at this table demo. Okay, so the table will be rendered something like this. Okay, so again like I am trying to put the same thing. Say for example the table, and then like the table rows, headings, and then so on. So this is how like the table will be rendered. So this is plain boring. Okay, so basically like there is nothing here. There are no rows. Okay, no table borders or something like that one. So you can put all this sort of information. So basically like within this this information is additional attributes within this table tag. Say for example I am putting a border for this one. Border I am giving a color. So probably all of you know about this color coding. So this is an RGB coding. So this is like hexadecimal. So R is for red value. Okay, that is the, so this varies from 0 to 255. 255 is the maximum level of R, red color. So and the 0 is like minimum level of red color. If you mix multiple colors, RGB, red, green, blue colors, you will get different colors for that one. Okay. So in this case, like or these RGB values are mixed together, you will get with the color. And we have some cell padding and cell spacing as well. Okay, so let us save this document. Okay, and let us try to see how the table is rendered like this. So you can put all these sort of additional attributes into this one. So that's about the table. Let's continue. So now let us look at HTML forms. HTML form basically allows users to enter information into the fields. Okay, say for example, if you want to collect any personal information or opinion in polls, etc., user preferences, etc., you have to use this sort of HTML forms. There are two basic components for this sort of HTML web form: the shell, which is actually the part that the user actually fills out, and then like the script which actually processes that information. Say for example that whatever the information you put in this sort of HTML form will be processed by, say for example, by JavaScript or server-side programming, which will be discussed further. Okay, in this week like we will be discussing about JavaScript. Next week like we will look at some server programming. Okay, server-side programming. And all these sort of HTML tags are used to create this sort of the forms shell, so the actual content. Okay, so within that content, like we will have text boxes, radio buttons, check boxes, drop down menus, etc. Okay, let's try to see an example. So this is an example form. Okay, so this is something like in this one, like I want to see like how many of you have laptops and what sort of operating systems are supported on that laptop, and then like whether you are able to put properly finish the assignments of the course in time. So I will prepare a form something like this one. So here is this text box where like you will enter your first name and last names. Okay, so this is the text box, and then like there can be a drop down menu. Say for example here I am asking, do you have a laptop, yes or no? Okay, so that's about this sort of drop down menu for that one. And then like these check boxes are there. Say for example, what are the operating systems supported on your laptop? So it can be a Windows machine, Ubuntu machine, or Macintosh machine. And last week, like we also have seen like how to basically have this sort of virtual machines. Okay, using which like a Windows machine can also have the support for Ubuntu. So you can enter multiple values here. So that's how like the checkboxes are. Whereas radio buttons will give you an option to click only one of them. Okay, could you finish the assignments in time? Yes or no? You can click only the one of the options. Of course, like if I want to give you the chance to put more comments as well, so then I put this sort of text area, okay, where you can put a lot more information. Okay, and then like I have this submit button. When I click this one, all this information is actually submitted. Okay, there is also this reset button which will actually reset all the content whichever I have typed there. Okay, these are about some of the basic HTML forms. Okay, so this is an example form. So let us look at the form shell is actually all this sort of content within it. Okay, let's look at the form shell. The form tag actually includes the address of the script which will process the form. Okay, so the form action. Okay, so which will be process opinion.php. We'll discuss this. Okay, then the method we will discuss this form tag in the next slide itself. Actually, the form shell will contain all the form elements such as these text boxes and radio buttons. Earlier, we have seen all these text boxes, radio buttons within that one. So all those HTML tags are within this shell. And of course, like these submit buttons, okay, for triggering this sort of script, okay. So once you submit it, this action will be triggered, and then like all the entered information is actually sent to the server, okay. So let us look at this sort of form attributes. The action actually defines the action to be performed when the form is submitted. You entered all the content within the form. When you submit it, okay, that all the form's content is actually sent to this sort of server-side script, something like a PHP or JHP. In this example, process opinion.php is a PHP script which is running on the server. Once on the client's browser, like you enter all this sort of information and you submit the information, all this information is actually pushed to the server. In this case, like this process underscore opinion.php will be there, which will process this document and it will send some results. Okay, this we will be learning as part of lab parts of next week. Okay, but of course, like let us assume, let us understand the concept, basic concept for the time being. All the form information, whatever you put, will be sent to this sort of server-side script, okay, which will process it and send you the result. Okay, and here in the form, like there is also a second attribute called this method. Method is the one which actually specifies the HTTP method which is actually used to submit this sort of information. Okay, we have discussed about HTTP in detail in the last weeks. Okay, so it has two different types of methods. The get method. In the get method, all this information within this form is actually appended to this sort of URL where like you are actually sending it. Okay, so it would have this sort of question mark tag, and then like all this key value pairs, okay, name value pairs, it will actually append to this sort of URL. But of course, there are certain catch with it. There are certain problems with this. Since you are appending all the things to the URL is not unlimited length. Okay, so whatever you basically type it in the browser, http.uohyd.ac.in, it is not unlimited. It is limited by 2048 characters. Okay, so that means like whatever the information you enter within this form should be less than the 2004 characters. That's a very interesting limitation. Then there is this value post. Okay, so you can put this method is post. If you put the method is post, all this information is appended to the HTTP request body. Okay, so all this form information is actually put in the body part of the HTML request. Okay, so this is much better. So use post whenever the form has personal or sensitive information. Say for example, if you are adding names, user IDs, passwords, etc. Okay, or some bank information or something into the form, never send by get. So never put the method get there. Okay. So within the HTML form, like we have seen different elements. Okay, say for example, there are different types of elements possible. There is this label element, which actually defines the label for other form elements. Okay, say for example, this is the label element, label tag for f name. So this f name, this is the first name label. Okay, first name label, and then like there is this input type, which is like a text box here. Okay, input type text, and it has this name, f name. So since you specified the for f name, whenever you have this label and then this text box is there, you click on this anywhere in the label, it is actually for this text box, the cursor actually goes into that particular text box. I will show it in the example. Okay, that's about the label. Then you have this sort of select, which actually defines a drop down list, okay, which can have multiple options. Okay, say for example, in the earlier example which I have shown, there is this do you have a laptop? Okay, so you need to have multiple options for that one. So select, it will again have this sort of IDs, and then like it has a name, laptop, and it has an option, okay, value as S, and the text displayed is S. These things can be different. Okay, so they don't have to match exactly. Value as no, and then like text as no. Now once you try to send the form parameters will be like parameter name will be laptop, okay, and the value will be one of the things which you actually put in these values. So if you select yes, then laptop is equal to yes is the one which actually will go into the server. Of course, like select you have to end with this one. Options will also have to end with tags. Then as I have shown, like you also have this sort of text area, which actually defines a multiple line input field. Text area, again it will have a name, and you can have like say for example 10 rows. It is okay. It has 10 rows and 30 columns. So 30 characters you can enter per line. Okay, and text area. Okay, so and then like there are apart from this label select and then like text area, there are different types of inputs. Okay, input elements. One of the type of input elements we have already seen is this sort of text box. Let's look at further of them. Of course, in fact actually there are huge number of form elements possible. If you want to know more about them, I have kept a reference here. Okay, different types of elements you can put there. So there are different types of input elements which you can put. Type text we have already seen in the earlier example. So input type is text, that puts a text box. Okay, a single line text input field. Okay, there can also be other types like checkbox. Okay, which actually puts like this sort of checkbox entity. Okay, so again this label. Okay, and the label. Okay, so supporting the operating systems. So one of the checkbox entry is like type checkbox, and it has a name Windows, value Windows, and the text which it is displaying is also Windows. Okay, so see like and then BSP is this sort of for putting this sort of spaces between them. So then there is this type radio, so which actually lets user select only one of the options, one of the choices. So again like label. Okay, so we have this sort of input type radio, and it has this sort of name as Q1 and value as S. So the interesting thing here is like you have to see that all the radio buttons for which like you want to select a single item need to have this sort of same name. The name value should be the same. If they are different, then each of the radio button becomes like an individual choice. Okay. This is one very important thing like which you have to notice. And of course like there are also other input types. So this type submit will have this sort of submit button. Okay, for submitting this sort of form data to a new form handler, and you also have this sort of type reset button, so which will actually reset everything. Okay, let's try to see the demo of this. Again I created a form for that one. Okay, so I created the form within this text space. Okay, so and I rendered it something like this one. Okay, so all the form tags like we have discussed already. So the form, so I have not specified any action or like method or something. So these things like we will learn in the latter parts of the weeks. Okay, next weeks actually. So for the time being I am putting only the form, and for that one like I had this sort of label first name. Okay, and see I have the associated this for to this first tab. So now if I put if I click anywhere in the first name, the cursor actually goes to the first name. So that is the advantage of having this sort of label. Okay, and for that one. So now let me try to fill it. Say for example I am Satish. Okay, so I have put Satish Srirama. Okay, so this is about this sort of first text boxes. Then I have this sort of label and with this selector. Okay, multiple this sort of drop down list. So select ID is laptop, and then like name is laptop. Okay, so we have seen that one, and we have the options. So I can select these options here. Okay, so you have a laptop, I have a laptop. Okay, and then like the supported operating systems on this one, say for example like I had put all these sort of check boxes. Okay, and you see like here I have specified like this space. Okay, empty space. So I can check on any of these things. Say for example my laptop supports this Windows and then Ubuntu. So basically like that's how like I'm putting the input. So checkbox, one for Ubuntu and one for Mac, Windows, and so on and so on. Okay, and then we already have seen about the radio button. Okay, type is radio button. See here I have put the Q1. Okay, the same here. So I can select only one of them, yes or no. Okay, so if I change that one, okay, say for example if I put Q2 here, okay, and if I save it, then they will not behave the way like they should be. Okay, so see I can select both of them, so that is not correct. Okay, So let me put Q1 here and then like save it, and let me render it again. So I can choose only one of them. Okay. So great. Now I also have this sort of input type submit and reset buttons. Okay. So I can submit a reset button. So I can put further comments like okay, in time. Okay. So something like that you put, and then like let us try to submit it. Then the form is actually submitted. Okay, since I don't have anything else in the form, so basically like it is by default it will take the get, and let us try to request, see the request the way like it is actually sent. You see, whatever the information I have typed here into the form actually went into this sort of header, okay, into this sort of URL. Okay, so the file name, f name is the name which I am using for this sort of first name. Okay, is Satish. It is taken along with the values, L name values. So again, like if you want to see the laptop is the one, the name here highlighted, and then like it is S, and so and so for all the other parameters. Okay, so all these things by default by get method they are being sent to the server. Okay. Similarly, like the reset button is something like this. If you add some information, if you put reset, the reset will clear everything. Okay. So this is about the forms. Let's continue further. So we have seen about the HTML forms. There are additional very interesting HTML5 elements possible. HTML5 supports different types of media information as well. Say for example, if you want to put a video or audio into your web form, like you can actually put it. Okay. Or like say for example, into your web page, if you want to put for placing a video, I can put something like video is the tag, width is 320 pixels, height is 240 pixels. If I put controls tag, controls as one of the attributes, it will also have this sort of controls into that video. We will see it in the example. Then like I am putting the source. The source is say for example here I am trying to put the source as one of the MP4 files. Okay, and then like I am specifying the type as video/MP4, and then like say for example your if the source can't be loaded, then your browser does not support the video tag. This text will appear there. Okay, so this is about the video tag. Similarly, you can also put the link to your YouTube video. In that case, like you have to put an iframe. Okay, iframe tag, width 420, at the height is 420, and then this source HTTP YouTube embed. And the interesting thing is like you cannot put the complete link of the HTML directly here. You have to take the ID of that particular video and then like replace that ID into this sort of iframe src. Then you will also see that sort of iframe there. Let's try to see a demo for this one. Okay, so again I had this one, the text as the next one, and let us try to render it. Okay, so I had this sort of both the images, I mean both these sort of videos possible here. So I had this sort of video one, which is an MP4 file. Okay, so you can play that one. So I also have all the controls and everything. Okay, so that's about this having the file within, and I also have a link to this sort of YouTube videos also you can play with that one. So that's interesting. So basically like whatever you want to put, all sorts of media content you can actually put them here. Okay, so the same tags here, and then like I'm separating the tags with a lot of space. Okay, so that's how like they came into the multiple lines, but then like if you want to have them in the bigger, they will come side by side and so and so. So all sorts of things. So HTML pages based on your browser's size, like they will actually vary. Okay, let's move back. The point is, so we have seen like so we have different seen different things like forms, tables, okay, putting the text and how to format and everything. Are we missing something? We have not worked with colors. Okay, of course, like in tables itself I have discussed about colors because I thought like having running the plain table was not at all beautiful, so I basically added the traditional text during the demo. But in general, like we have not seen any of these colors or backgrounds or formats or specifying different fonts and font sizes, etc. for the text, isn't it? We have not discussed. So as of now, like our home pages are, I mean, whatever the pages which we have created are plain boring text. That's the frank opinion, isn't it? You can actually set whatever the tags which I have set for this sort of table. Okay, so all these attributes you can set for almost all the visible tags. Okay, which actually put all this sort of format information. Okay, formats, fonts, font sizes, etc. Okay, so let's see the examples. The table I have already shown you the example. Okay, what will happen if you put that one? Even for font, like you can specify between the text, like you can specify a font type, face, Times New Roman, size +3. So you will add 3 to the current size which is shown, and then like colors. So for example here it is R value is FF, so it is maximum. So this is the red color. Green and blue are zeros. So this will be a red text, and then like it will be a bigger text. We could have put this one. Okay. HR. So even the horizontal rule which we have seen in like a simple plain line, we could have specified its width to be 75%, and we could have specified different color for that one, and we could have even increased its size as 4 pixels thickness. Okay. So this will be the 75% of the home page. Okay, complete page, and its thickness will be 4 pixels. We could have put all this information. We will learn about all these things as part of the next video, as part of learning this sort of cascading style states, CSS. Okay. So as far as the references is concerned for these sort of videos, I already mentioned like the idea of these videos is to give you a preliminary understanding about what are different tags, how you can actually render them, how you can develop web pages, and then so and so. No way we are actually claiming that this is an exhaustive list of it. Okay, there are hundreds of elements, and then there are several tens of attributes for each and every element, makes them like thousands of elements and attributes possible. Okay, so if you really want to know about more of these things, like you can actually check them at this W3C Schools HTML tutorial. It also has all this sort of reference material for all these HTML tags. And if anybody is interested in seeing like small HTML tutorial, okay, tutorial videos, immediately like how it is rendered. Okay, so here is a playlist of videos. Okay, so which are very interesting. Okay, thank you very much for your attention.